welcome back to another week of Behind the Lens. I'm Debbie Elias, film critic, creator, and host of Behind the Lens, where we go behind the lens and below the line with the movers, the shakers, those film and TV makers, the producers, directors, writers, actors, cinematographers, production designers, costume designers, film editors, sound mixers, stunt coordinators, VFX gurus, you name it, and I talk to them, and you all know how much I love talking. Today, I mean, it's been an interesting week or so, and we're not going to get into the whole FCC, ABC, Jimmy Kimmel mess, because it's exactly that. It is a mess that we have to see play out, no matter which way things fall. It's a tough situation for media. It's a tough situation for the country with what's happening. But that's another reason we have movies. Because as Franklin Delano Roosevelt instructed Hollywood back during the days of the Depression, he issued an executive order to make upbeat movies, happy movies. I have said this before. My regular listeners, you know about this already. That's how Shirley Temple became a star. Because of an executive order from the President of the United States for Hollywood to make upbeat movies to elevate the spirit of the country. And while movies also serve to point a mirror in our faces as to what kind of morons we can be at times, this is one of the times where I think we need some escapism, some joy, something to lighten the load. And that's what movies does for us. And I think these movies we're going to talk about today could be just the ticket for you. Now, it's an interesting show as I take a look at two very different films and filmmakers. Thanks to producer, actor Johnny Danks, talking about his new film, Shaky Grounds, the first one produced under the banner of his company, Dank Productions. And director-editor VINCENT GRASHAW discusses the emotionally powerful character study, Bang Bang. First up, talking with Johnny Danks about Shaky Grounds. What began as a short film about coffee in a coffee shop, after 15 years, morphed and, as Johnny says, about quote-unquote 2,000 rewrites, morphed into the feature film we have today, Shaky Grounds, which is not about coffee, but it's a film that features grunge music and captures the Seattle's 1990s vibe, which is interesting when you find out from Johnny that the film was shot in Arkansas. Shaky Grounds is the story of a troubled musician and his band as they navigate personal demons and professional ones as well that are propelled by their personal ones. And their shot at redemption, with a disgraced record executive who happens to be played by Johnny Danks. After multiple obstacles, they rise together, finding purpose in their music and each other. But at what cost? Directed by Michael Garcia with script by Trace Slotkin. In addition to producing Shaky Grounds, as I just said, Johnny Danks also co-stars as disgraced record executive Nick. Joining Johnny on screen are Eric Roberts. I still say he's heading for the Guinness Book of World Records with the number of screen appearances he has made in his career. And Eric plays Nick's boss, Lou Bernstein. Eric Nelson comes on board as Travis, leader of the band The Cuticles. Ella Cannon is on board as the band manager and coffee shop manager named Mel. And all you General Hospital fans out there, you just got her back on GH? Well, if you need more, Kelly Thibaud, well, just come to Shaky Grounds because she is here and stars as Travis's sister, Carrie. And what a fun role she has. But I will tell you, the GH fans will get this comment. She does bring some of the Britch into her character of Carrie. But all around, the casting is great. It's fun. And that's one of the great things about this film, about Shaky Grounds. It's fun. It's entertaining. Now, as you're going to hear in this conversation, Johnny goes in depth discussing that 15-year writing process and those 2,000 edits, and his involvement in every aspect of the production. He's very proud of this, that he is not a titular producer, boots on the ground, and his hands are in everything, from casting to location and shooting in Arkansas, to the decision to use original music, to logistics and particulars, including 2 concert scenes in the film. And trust me when I say you haven't really experienced a low-budget, micro-budget film until you've had to schedule and wrangle 100-plus non-actors in a concert sequence. To production design, which includes a build-out of a video store, to his own performance, and more. So sit back, relax, and take a listen to Johnny Danks talking about Shaky Grounds. And welcome, Johnny Danks, here to talk about Shaky Grounds, the first film under your new production company, Dank Productions. What I love about this film, Johnny, so let's just dig right into it. What I love is that this started as a short film back in 2010, a short film about coffee. But as we watch the 2025 version of Shaky Grounds, it's quite clear that the title can apply to this new film or the original film. So any thoughts there on using the same title for 2 totally different subjects? The title still applies. Be it about coffee in a short or about shaky grounds in life.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that we said the short was like literally about a group of characters that take place in a coffee shop, short film, pretty straightforward. And then I said, oh man, I could make a feature like that, but I didn't want it to be like Clerks or anything. Nothing wrong with that concept, but I said, how could we expand? Well, then I started thinking, well, maybe we could have the name of the coffee shop Shaky Grounds in the movie, but like make another story. And that's what we did. And we thought of like grunge music and kind of like that Seattle, gloomy vibe. And then, coffee was kind of, it was big in Seattle in the 90s. So we started to put together art, music, coffee. And that's when we started writing away. And that's when we decided to shoot in Arkansas. Similar vibes to Seattle, believe it or not, so Marysville, Arkansas. And
I love the story. So I'm curious, how involved were you in the script, working with Trace in writing, and also your director, Michael Garcia?
Yeah.
So what was this collaboration like?
Well, I'm just going to say this. This was an interesting one. The script was probably rewritten, and I'm not even kidding, probably 24 times, literally. Yeah, this is 15 years, Debbie. This is a long time. This wasn't, this was a little unorthodox. This was a little, every script has its journey, right? I know it takes several years, So this is the way that one went, where it was rewritten 24 times, probably a dozen or so writers. Trace wrote this, and then, of course, we ended up rewriting it again after that, and then the director Michael Garcia wrote a lot of this too as well. I'm not much of a writer. I'm more of like an input kind of guy, like, oh, maybe we should add this line or that line, but I kind of let the writers do what they're good at. So we were all involved over the years, and yeah.
So now, once you had this script in hand, were you actively involved in casting of this one, or did you leave that to Michael?
I was active in all of it. I had the final say in everything that was done with this. But because I was an actor in this, I had a lot of weight on my shoulders with producing this, because now, instead of just acting and, I don't want to say goofing off, but, goofing off in a way, now I have a responsibility to investors who, they're investing in this, first time kind of, it's the first kind of big film. So, and these were large investments, right? So it's, had a responsibility to them too. So that being said, I really wanted to focus in on my character.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael he had a little bit of a say. He had what he wanted to, when actors were auditioning, he got to see the auditions and stuff like that. And he had his opinion of who he wanted, but ultimately, I decided, and the producers, who was going to get cast and everything. So I had to say in everything, Debbie.
Well, I have to commend you on the casting. Number one, you're helping contribute to Eric Roberts getting the Guinness Book of World Records for the most on-screen appearances in his career. He's got to be around 900 and something now. I'm waiting to see him hit over 1,000. And then you get Kelly, and right now this couldn't be a better time for Shaky Grounds to be released because of all the press that Kelly is getting for her return to General Hospital.
Yeah.
The General Hospital fans are very loyal to the actors and follow them into whatever projects they're doing. I'm actually hoping that the GH fans come on board and watch Shaky Grounds because they will not be disappointed.
Awesome.
But your performance, this is not a situation where you're making a Hitchcockian walk-on. You really do have a very substantive role as Nick. And I have to tell you, very well fleshed out. I love the nuance that you bring to the character. It's fun watching you and to see your character development and the arc that Nick goes on, especially with the guys in the band. And of course, Mel, who is instrumental in the connective tissue working. How difficult was it to get into character for this and have an arc like this? It's a lot different than coming in as an actor on a short film where you can't really do a whole heck of a lot in most short films. But here you had meat and potatoes to dig into. So I'm curious as to your approach.
Yeah, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but it wasn't as difficult. I've been doing acting for a while. This character had a lot of elements of myself to it too. It wasn't that challenging for me. I really, the only challenging thing is that if I wasn't producing this, I probably would have I feel like I would say done better, but I got to actually speak to some real life A&R people.
Great.
And kind of pick their brain and their behavior. So I did some studying on that a little bit and some research. So it was I appreciate that though, W. It's very nice. This wasn't that complicated for me. But I had a lot of fun doing it. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Actors were great to work with too. So.
Well, I have to say, watching you and Eric Roberts and him giving you a dressing down in that sarcastic tone that Eric has that's just so delicious.
Yeah, I know.
And watching you cower in the chair while trying to plead for your life is just wonderful. But then watching your dynamic with David Lautman as fellow A&R guy who is a real snake in the grass, that just, the innocence that you give to Nick, that he thinks people are honorable and nice and no reason to ever doubt them or think somebody's going to go behind their back or screw them over. Those two dynamics, you and Eric Roberts and you and David Lautman, just wonderful and really show a range in you that I really enjoyed watching.
Thank you.
Did you guys get a lot of rehearsal time? Because there is so much happening. You've got the music happening. So you've got studio time. You've got rehearsals. You've got crowds. Now, and all of that you've got to look at, too, as a producer.
Debbie, we had no time. And that's what I think that's what the magic was about this, because I look back and go, holy smokes, because we had no takes. I remember even the first day it was like, let's go. It was literally, of course we did takes and stuff, different camera angles, but we didn't have barely any time to even really rehearse. What I would like to say though is about that when you bring up crowds, we did have that one live scene, which is, so people know, like with independents, these, you try to avoid things like this, but we had, over 100 extras in the concert scene.
My God.
Yeah, and you don't get that, with indies, it's like, oh my gosh, like stay clear of that, because, it's like time is money. You got to go. You don't have a lot to spend. So, but we had all original music. Our drummer is actually playing drums in that. Like, he's a real drummer. So things like that definitely helped, right? So we didn't have like, we didn't really get we didn't get like stalled for people that couldn't play the instrument. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah.
And it also meant by having a drummer who really was a drummer, you didn't have to worry about dubbing anything in or having an extra doing the instrumentation there or a backup.
Yeah.
Very helpful in the economic part of this venture, Johnny.
Yeah, and we also had original music. I would like to say too, we paid a band, a music group, to actually create and come up with original music. So I think we have at least 3 songs, maybe 3 to 4 songs that are throughout this movie that are actually ours, which was an interesting approach too.
That's very original, yeah. Very interesting
so
approach.
We're actually up on like the platforms like Instagram. If you post a reel or videos people do, how you could like attach any song to it. There's like a library. We're actually in that library, which is pretty cool. Just a little fun thing that I didn't even know.
That's fantastic.
Recently. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah, this was a fun movie. I really enjoyed doing this. I get asked a lot, is this a passion project? This isn't like a passion project, even though it's been in the, even though it's been around for, trying to do this for over a decade. It was just something that like I just wanted to just complete. I just wanted to like do it and like finish what I started. That was like my approach to this. So I'm very proud of this. I'm very proud of what I did. I'm very proud of the cast that I put together. Some of these actors they're out there. Like when I was with Eric Nelson in Texas doing ADR,
mm-hmm.
He had fans running up to him signing autographs. So Eric is he's kind of legend in the in the Western type of world, Western that type of
very nice.
Yeah, so I'm very proud of everybody. Mackenzie Ziegler, and she did great. She doesn't take a lot of. She's very picky with what she accepts, but she's got millions and millions of followers and a strong audience behind her. So yeah, along with Kelly, we have we did good. I'm proud of this.
You did really good. Now, something I've got to compliment you on and ask about the production design, most notably with your 2 venues of the Shire and then I think it's Mercury was the second one. Were those existing clubs or bars, or did your production designer, did Laura have to go in there with the set decorator Abby and really just grunge the thing out and make it club-like?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought up Laura and Abby. They were rock stars through this, and they made the shop Shaky. If you would have, I just want to throw in there Shaky Grounds before what you see on screen, but like the before and after. Oh my gosh, like the artwork that they purchased, whether it was from thrift stores or this and that. I mean, man, did they set dress Shaky Grounds? Like it's like literally, I felt like when you go to see like the set of friends, right? When they all hang out at the Central Park, and
mm-hmm.
it's like, right, that's all dressed, right? So it's almost like the shop that we had was just very, I don't say dull, but kind of dull. And then when they were finished with it, it was like these bright colors, and it's like had such a good vibe to it. So yes, the Shire was a bar. It's no longer open anymore, but they were great. We put like when you see. The Cuticles, Eric Nelson's band in the film perform. We built a little stage, and in the background, that was great. Oh my gosh, we wanted to almost make that look like Seattle when like Nirvana played it. Like I think the place is called the Palladium
mm-hmm.
in like that mid '90s, or it was maybe even late '80s. Just like that, sticky beer smell and like moshing and just So we wanted that vibe, that kind of look. Dark, gloomy, a beer kind of place where So they said they did an amazing job at the Shire, and then when we played the final performance in what was it called? I'm blanking on the name really quick. Shoot. But the other place that we ended up playing the live performance in at the end, that is like a well-known venue that's actually like operational. I guess people, like bands still go there to this day. So we didn't do that much there. You know, the lighting was there for us, the space, so nothing really there.
The minute I saw the Shire and the neon, the neon graffiti paint and all of that, I immediately thought of CBGB, because I actually went to CBGB in New York in my much younger days. And it really has that CBGB vibe.
Cool. That's what we were going for.
So I was really impressed with that. Now,
thank you.
How did you and Michael torment your actors and put them in those, and even you get tormented in your Goodwill clothes? But what your costume designer Abigail did, putting people in spandex and the fringe and studded leather jackets a la Michael Jackson. Was this one of your brainchild ideas, Johnny?
No, this was not one of mine. I don't know whose it was, to be honest, but it's one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
It's hilarious.
Sure. Yeah, I love that scene. That was a great scene.
It's hilarious. And of course...
thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, that was a good one.
One of the fun parts of that is when Travis storms off and he goes back home to his sister's house and his niece is there on the couch and he's going to go back out and she sits there and Lisa goes, I think you might want to change your clothes. It was her deadpan was so good. Just,
I know.
On every level, there's a very relaxed energy
Thanks.
to this film and for all of your performances that you have happening here. And
I appreciate that.
Another strong element in the film is the work of your cinematographer, Paris Stewart, especially with the concert scenes. Some really nice concert photography happening.
Yeah, no, this guy Paris blew me away too. He was brought in with the director, Michael. That was his guy, and he, we shot on the mini Arri Alexa, and he had some really mind blowing shots. Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing him up. He was one of the backbones of this production, and yeah, thank you. Yeah, really great shots. Anyone that sees this film, you know what this is, Debbie? Like a lot, like. Yes, I think we could have maybe, I know I'm just nitpicking, maybe it could have been a little more in-depth and, character development. There's things I would have done now, maybe certain flashbacks. But, everybody that sees this film, whatever you think of it, it's like everybody is like, it is shot fucking great. Like, it looks awesome. Like, it looks like a real, I don't think a real movie, but it looks incredible. The shots is what I get the most props for, So thanks for bringing him up. It
looks good, but I like the way that it's real concert shots that Paris has framed and has blocked out. So it's not staged. It's not like you had a camera on sticks and you just rotated it down on its side. No, these are real concert level shots. And it works well. And of course, being the age I am, I was tickled to see a video store and all of those video boxes. And of course, as Travis goes in there and you can see the videos that are being cataloged to go up on the shelves, and you've got Mannequin. And I was like, oh my God, that's one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies. That I have on VHS, by the way.
I love that movie.
I mean, such great touches. Did you have to create the video store, or was there still one standing when you shot this?
Okay, so I'll give a little. This is one of those little. What do they call it?
Anecdotes behind the scenes.
Yeah. So I had gone to different places when I was in Northwest Arkansas. I did go in a few different locations that actually were video stores. There actually are a couple that are still standing over there, which is great. Good nostalgia. But for this one, this video store we actually built, and again, kudos to Laura and Abby. This was in I don't say the back. This was in a Goodwill store kind of store, but a large one, like a large store. You know, it almost looks like a department store kind of size. You know, not massive, but you know, a good one. And there was an area in the back where we kind of they wanted us to film there first of all because it was good for their business, but they allowed us to kind of build out that video store, pretty much. So yeah, we wanted to give it that vibe of just like, you go like DVDs, VHS, we were going for that. And there are still some stores like that. I know it sounds crazy now, the kids today, but it's just like there are still some, like not like Blockbuster Video, but there are still some VHS, DVD stores around that you could, same as if you were to go to like, Redbox, outside a supermarket,
yeah,
and, get a rental. It's similar to that. Just, but they are still standing, and that's what we were going for too in one of these rewrites. So.
Because
so
that
I'm glad you brought that up.
That's such a wonderful part of nostalgia, and it kind of goes into, we're shooting in Arkansas. It's not the big city where you're not going to see that. So it's a slice of Americana that is very much part of history. When video stores, because there was nothing like walking into a video store and picking up all the different boxes and turning it over and reading the notes on the back, like going into a record store and picking up an album and reading the liner notes on the back. You don't get to do that anymore.
That, yeah, and I wanted to right. You don't see. I know. I wanted to that was one of my favorite teams too. To have that nostalgia feeling that you got too. Is yeah, even in 2025, screw it. Let's just add that in.
No, I think it's fantastic. And I know I was already talking about the film to some friends of mine at my local bar. So there are people I know that are in their 50s and above that are already interested in seeing Shaky Grounds. So...
Great.
You're checking the boxes right, Johnny. So
thanks. I appreciate it. There's a lot of learning with this industry. I thought, I just keep on, I'm really looking forward to doing way more producing too. And, but I appreciate it. Thanks.
So what's, at the end of the day now, the film is out, people can see it. Mm-hmm. What is the biggest thing that you learned about yourself as a filmmaker, as a producer, that you can take forward into future productions?
Wow. I think the main thing would be have a really good support system around you, first of all, whether it's at home, work, business, but sticking to the work part, make sure that you do surround yourself with people that you could trust and that do have their best intentions for the film, and kind of know what it takes, right? There's always going to be mistakes, just like mistakes in life, but when you're making a film, you have to really try to understand that there's going to be fires to be put out, but just as long as they're not big fires, because it's like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I had a crew of like 50 to 60 people under me. For a SAG feature, that's a lot of people. Today everyone's doing stuff, really, skeleton crews and people, just. So I would say that, and also make sure that when you are, let's say, interviewing people for a job, even if it's crew, and I learned this the hard way, without getting too much into it, but make sure you do hire people that you're going to get along with. Because if you don't, it's kind of like a too late thing, then you're kind of stuck with these people, and it happened to me, and that's okay though, Unfortunately, those was part of this journey where I got caught in a position where we had to bring certain people on, almost rushed a little bit. I rushed too quick, and so that's what I learned is sometimes even when you're rushing, because people get hired and fired all the time, right? And you have to just always make sure that the show must go on, but just make sure you're, you know who you're bringing on, and you're going to get along with them. Like you just, you have to. That's what I would. It's a hard question to answer, but I would just say a strong, group of people around you that trust you, that you trust, and that also, try not to rush too quick into hiring people. Also, though, really make sure that they're the right fit for this project. And that would be my advice. Because if it doesn't work and it's too late, then you have to move forward. That'll be it. And I'm glad I learned that because I'm really excited about the next one. What to look for now when I'm interviewing people, and because I've been in this industry, I've been around for a while, and I really love it. I love it so much, and I waited tables for 15 plus years, and it's it's just I've always wanted to do this, so I never quit. So I hope people that watch this too also watch it. Where it might not be like this, oh my God, movie that blows you away, but I want to represent the people that are grinding out there, that are trying to make independent films or whatever, and it can be done. You just don't just relax, breathe sometimes, stay the course, and just build a good group of people around you that understand you. And if they don't understand you, then go out and make new friends.
Yes. Very important.
Yeah, very important, because sometimes you have to let things go in the past, and so.
Well, it's a
loaded question, Debbie.
I know
about that one. That's a loaded question because this is not easy, and a lot of people get hurt, relationships end. It's not easy, especially when you start to be the boss like I was, and you have to do what's best for the project, and people may not get it, they may not like it, and say, who is this person? You weren't like this. But you know what? It's still a business, and
Well,
so I love it though, and I'm proud of this one. I'm really proud of it.
And you should be. You achieved a hell of a lot for your first, production under your belt. But you also you succeed in entertaining. Anybody that watches this film is going to be entertained. And you can't ask for much more than that, Johnny.
I appreciate it.
You really can't. Well, okay,
Some people weren't crazy about it. I'm glad you were, Debbie.
I watch about 1,100 or 1,200 films a year. Yeah. And that's just what's coming into theaters at the festival levels. That's just watching them because as a critic, that's what I do. But so many of them do not entertain at all. So for me, to see a film like Shaky Grounds and be thoroughly entertained, that makes me happy.
Thank you. A couple bumps I wish I would have gone back. Maybe we could have seen, certain character flashbacks or this or that. So I think I also learned that is that when you're filming, really make sure, you get what you need, because once you wrap, that's kind of it. So, little things like that. But I guess I'm just being nitpicky. But I appreciate it, Like this is the kind I call this a reality film because I just think it goes, we don't really break it up too much.
Yep,
there's no car crashes or explosions or crazy, intense scenes or So I appreciate that you said you were entertained. That's all, we're going for. And I learned a lot.
And look at it this way. 5 years down the road or so, you could always come back with a sequel.
Yeah.
As to where everybody is now. Okay. Is Nick walking the straight and narrow? Or has he reverted to wanton ways?
Exactly.
So, but see, now, after your next film, when I talk to you, now you can think ahead, because I'm going to ask you, what did you learn in making that film?
Well, let me just tell you this to give you a little tease, is that I did sign on to produce a movie by a gentleman by the name of Greg Abbott, not the Governor Greg Abbott, but the Greg Abbott that, he's done many things in his life, but most people remember him from the scandal with, the college scandal, I think with Lori Loughlin. But he's a brilliant man. He's written a couple of novels, and he wrote one, and there's a book. He wrote the book, and it has to do with his life. It was like about his kind of life story, and he has a screenplay of it. And this is going to be a massive budget, massive, for me, upwards of close to 8 figures. And
wow.
So, we're already thinking about like the Austin Butlers and stuff. So this is, I'm going to make an announcement, hopefully on my social media within the next few months, not too far away. So I say that because everything that I did with Shaky is really going to be applied to the next one, and I'm really going to be very picky now about who is involved in my next project, and I'm looking forward to that, Deb.
I will be on the lookout for it, Johnny, and I hope we get to chat again about that one after that's made.
I hope so too.
Johnny, this has been so wonderful getting to talk with you. Thank you so much, and I
Thanks,
can't
Debbie.
wait.
You're welcome.
Can't wait till we do it again.
Let's do it again. Talk to you
Okay.
soon.
Bye-bye. And that was Johnny Danks talking Shaky Grounds, which you can watch right now on your favorite digital platform. It's an easy film. Kick back on the couch, have a couple drinks. You've got grunge music. It's casual. It's easy breezy. And the film's entertaining. You won't be disappointed. Now, switching gears, we move into the world of boxing with Bang Bang. And it's an exquisite character study, courtesy of director and editor Vincent Grashaw. I love this film and every element of this storytelling. In Bang Bang, retired boxer Bernard Bang Bang Roziski finds a renewed sense of purpose when he reconnects with his estranged grandson and begins training him in the very sport that destroyed Bang Bang's life. As the bond between them grows, questions arise about Bang Bang's true motivations, including from an old flame who witnessed his explosive rise in the 80s and his bitter rivalry with her cousin, now a formidable political figure and Detroit mayoral candidate, Darnell Washington. Is Bang Bang passing down his anger to his grandson, or is there real redemption in this mentorship? Or does he just not care at all? Directed by Vincent with script by Will Janowitz, Bang Bang stars Tim Blake Nelson in a tour de force performance as Bang Bang. Nelson is brilliant in this role. His intensity is riveting. You cannot look away from the screen when he is on screen. It's wonderful. Joining him are Glenn Plummer, Kevin Corrigan, Nina Arianda, Andrew Liner, Daniela Pineda, and one-time favorite on Fame, Erica Gimple, who has a very much an Adrian Balboa kind of role here. As Vincent and I dig into Bang Bang, he discusses the film's introspective portrayal of personal and professional demons, substance abuse, and the grit of a man who was once a champion, explaining the casting process, particularly the selection of Tim Blake Nelson for the lead role, and the film's use of Detroit as a setting to reflect the city's decline is a testament to the thought Vincent gave to this production and his vision for this story. And by the way, in Shaky Grounds, where they shot in Arkansas, making it feel and look like Seattle, well, here they shot in Kentucky and made it feel like Detroit. Fascinating, and kudos to the production designers and location scouts on films, especially the ones we're talking about today, who can pull that off and immerse us in a world that is totally different than where they're actually doing the work and shooting. He also highlights the importance of visual storytelling, including the use of color and space. And we've got a really great discussion going on about that in this interview. And the collaborative effort with his cinematographer, Pat Aldinger, who, by the way, does his own camera work, as well as the work of production designer Ben Miller. Editing the film himself, filmmakers and editors, I think, will appreciate Vincent's detailed process of editing from first cut to what he calls a suicide cut, and the sound design and edit that goes along with that, including the music. One of the interesting things about Bang Bang is the surreptitious connection that Vincent has to the subject, given his grandfather was a Golden Gloves boxer, which proved to be a big draw for Vincent as he sees this film as a love letter to the has-been and once-was boxers. Vincent is such a thoughtful filmmaker on every level, very articulate and purposeful in what he does to tell a story. And I've seen some of his other films, so I can say that confidently about him as a storyteller. So, take a listen. Here's director and editor Vincent Grashaw talking about Bang Bang. Hi, Vincent.
Hey there.
Thank you so much for taking time to talk with me about Bang Bang. This is such a beautiful character study. And you really dig into, and this is an amazing performance by Tim as Bang Bang. Very introspective. We see the personal demons, professional demons, substance abuse demons, and it breaks down through the people in his world. You and Will, your writer, have done an amazing job to give us a full-bodied look at this man who can't quite get out of the past, but knows he's not there and isn't able to move on into the future. You've got so many great structural elements here. Everybody knows Bang Bang's story until he goes to his old house, and you have the three people who are living there, and he gets to regale them with tales that they haven't heard before. And you see him spark and come alive, and you see color come into play. On every level, Vincent, you have really broken this out, using color, using space, using lighting, and giving us the grit of a man who he's now a has-been or a once was. And it's just beautifully, beautifully portrayed.
Oh, thank you so much, Debbie. I'm glad you registered all that. Like, there's a lot going on in this script. It's very easy to I mean, yeah, you see boxing movies all the time, and that's everything you just said is kind of what I responded to in the script,
Now, I'm curious, because your grandfather was a Golden Gloves fighter, did Will write this script for you? Did you go to him? Because this is like tailor-made for a story for you to tell.
No, that's funny. I mean, no, I didn't know Will before this.
Wow.
And one of my exec producers on the movie was good friends with Will, and his name's Jesse Ozeri, and he sent me this, and he goes, Vince, I think you're really going to like the script that this guy I know Will wrote. And so I read it and was instantly like, yeah, if I'm ever going to make a boxing movie, this was it for sure.
It takes somebody like you with the personal experience of your grandfather to really bring the heart and the pain into this film. And you do that so beautifully. I love boxing movies because of my own personal experience with people, with boxers.
Yeah.
So to see your film, that's like right up my alley. So.
No, I love that. And it's one of those things that it all started with the script, really, and how the character of Detroit plays a part in it,
mm-hmm.
and how cities play a part in so many boxer stories, like Philadelphia, like Frazier being there, Bernard Hopkins being from there, Kronk Jim coming out of there with Manuel Stewart. Like, these are places that it's like embedded in the city and the culture, and so I felt like Detroit played a big part. My grandfather was from Saginaw, and so he boxed out of Saginaw back then. And I mean, this was in the 40s. But I just thought that Will really nailed that aspect of it in putting the Polish heritage in there, and the Hamtramck community and in Michigan, it's all felt very authentic, and so it was sort of a no-brainer because it also didn't go the path that I was expecting as I'm reading. Like, you kind of almost think it's going to go a certain way, like a little more traditional, and it doesn't. It kind of veered into this really interesting, like you said, character study. So,
well, and also I think Detroit is important here because of how much Detroit has been used over the past, 5-6 years in terms of showing how a city has eroded over the years. And you hear politicians talk about, we're going to bring back auto manufacturing, we're going to do this, we're going to revitalize everything. And that's very much akin to Bang Bang. In that, the glory days were there, and now it's, are you going to fight back? Can you fight back? So setting this in Detroit is very analogous between Bang Bang and the city itself.
Totally.
You've got so much great metaphor happening in here, Vince, on so many levels. Now, once you decided you were going to make this, what led you to Tim Blake Nelson? Because, as I said, I think this is probably the best performance of his career.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll tell him you said that, and, he's very proud of it. He loves the challenge. I mean, one thing I learned about him is at this stage in his career, he welcomes that kind of challenge in roles. And so, I mean, he knows this, but he wasn't the first person we went to. I mean, it wasn't written necessarily for a featherweight, sort of smaller fighter, which, they didn't really get the love that you would as a heavyweight or even a welterweight or middleweight back in the day. But, what happened initially is we were talking with Andrew Dice Clay, and we almost had a deal with him. He needed like 8 months for us to wait, and there was no guarantee, and so we just couldn't, and so we moved on. And there was a couple other people too, but I think it was Tim was like the third or fourth we went to, and when I had gone to Tim for that horror movie I did called What Josiah Saw, he passed on it, but he remembered me because I wrote him a letter, and we had some mutual friends, and so when this came and the idea of Tim doing it, I was like, man, if I don't know what his athletic abilities are, but if anybody can kind of tackle Bang Bang in a very interesting way, I figured he was going to nail it and really commit to it. And he didn't have any boxing experience, so when we offered it to him, I wrote him a letter, and luckily Tim is the type of actor that tells his agents he wants to read it. He wants to receive every offer. So he got it, and then he read it, and I think he decided this was really challenging. And so we talked, and he jumped on, and then did 6 weeks or so of training. He met with Teddy Atlas in New York. Will has family friends with him, and Teddy is obviously kind of an icon in the sport. And he gave Tim some advice when they met, and then he hooked him up with his trainer named Martin Snow out of New York, where Tim lives, and Tim went there 6 days a week for 6 weeks, and just got in great shape. And because to me it was more about it wasn't so much that I wanted Tim to even be in good shape. I didn't really care about that. I think Tim did, and I loved that. I wanted it to be believable that just how a fighter never loses these abilities when they teach somebody how to throw a jab, how they guard themselves, and just how a boxer functions. They don't lose those little ticks and those little things about even footwork. Like that doesn't go away. And so I wanted Tim to have those abilities more than being in good shape. And so he just embraced it like full force.
And what's beautiful is that, yes, he has those abilities, but given age and the wear and tear and the decline on the body and the mind, he remembers them, and he can teach his grandson But by the same token, when he starts certain moves, you see him a little off kilter, like he's not as polished as he was in his prime. And I really like that element of it in developing this character and defining him. And similarly, you bring in Kevin Corrigan as Bang Bang's BFF, John, and you see that there's something not quite right, that he's got, he's got a few issues from back in the day.
It's obviously he's a fighter too, and a lot of times, God, how many boxers actually make it to the pinnacle of the sport, the top of the sport, and even those ones, what they're left with after the fact. It was one of the main things I loved about this is it really is a story about what you're left with post-career and what you give to the sport. Even if you were the biggest thing, you, after the fact, the crowds and people move on with their lives, and they sort of only remember you in those times. They don't know the kind of brain damage you've gone through and the things that you have to live with financially and how you're not really looked after. The sport of boxing is, out of all American sports or any sport, it's sort of the wild, wild west, and it always has been. Mm-hmm. There's no federal regulation. You're not really protected outside of an athletic commission or your own promoter. And so I think that's super relatable to any fighter. Like, whether they had any sort of fame or success financially, they still leave with that same sort of punishment that they took, and you give up a part of your life. A lot of people leave a piece of them in the rings, and I think that's very, very apparent for somebody like Bang Bang, but also, by the end of the film, people close to him, you realize, suffered worse, and without spoiling anything. But there's also, like, how good the sport is for youth and for people. Like, it really, you can learn a lot, and it teaches you a lot. And I think Bang Bang's motivations are sort of complex in that way. Like, he sees the potential, these kernels of talent in his grandson, and I think that reinvigorates him and inspires him to kind of, showcase this. But then there's other motivations behind his, so there's like a dual motivational thing, and one of them is good and one of them's a little bit more selfish and for his own, revenge, or to kind of show people he's still relevant, as in his rival in the sport, Glenn Plummer's character, Darnell. So,
Glenn's wonderful as Darnell Washington. He is wonderful. Very Muhammad Ali-esque, shall we say.
Yeah.
Really wonderful. Now, with these character structures that you have here, and by the way, I have to tell you, I interviewed Donna Namarode last week for her other film that's out, The A-Frame. And she raved about working with you and how closely you work to help develop, like her character, Alex. And she just raved about working with you and how invested you are and were in bringing this character to life and how to make the character of Alex shine and really put a stamp on, because that character is so key in the progression of the story and the progression of Bang Bang. You've got that very quiet scene in the bedroom, and she's giving him some kernels of wisdom that he may have forgotten or that he doesn't want to hear. Number one, it's a beautiful performance by her, but I love the fact that she attributes so much of it to how closely you work with an actor to develop the character.
Yeah, Dana is really somebody who's a dedicated actor.
Yeah.
I've worked with her several times now, and she's just somebody I can easily trust to kind of take a character. She's done a film we just did with Lou Diamond Phillips that we just premiered at Locarno a couple weeks ago. she's the lead role opposite Lou in that. And so, and I'm in post-production on a true story prison film where she plays somebody complete opposite. So it's really cool to see her growth in as an actor as well. And, you know, when you work with people that you can trust, you like to work with them more than, you know, as much as you can. And yeah, she nailed that scene, which I agree. It's a kind of pivotal moment for him. I mean, in life, like homes and those locations in our memories are like very potent. Like you can almost smell them just from your memories. And, you know, it's a real special moment because he's put his grandson in a situation that it's forcing him to kind of own up to his motivations and how, you know what I mean? It's really made him reflect on his past and sort of going to this place, finding people that, you know, more a younger group who have no idea who he is, what he's done. And, you know, I think it's a really cool key moment with them talking in that room.
Very much so. And this is also where your visuals come into play, your work with your DP, with Pat Aldinger. I love your visual grammar here and the resulting visual tonal bandwidth. You make the greatest use. Number one, kudos to your production designer, Ben Miller, and your location scouts. You turned Kentucky into Detroit.
Yeah.
But I look at the color, your use of color, and how you strip out. It's essentially a gray world for Bang Bang. But then there are certain elements that pop up. Kevin Corrigan, you know, John, the character of John, he'll pop up wearing those plaid 1970s double knit jackets, and there's color. Or we go into Bang Bang's old house, where we have Alex and her two friends, and we see remnants of the past, but we see things that have color, sparks, come to life. Everything about Erica Gimple's world, Sharon, is just gorgeous. That bedroom, it's golden tones, it's warm, it's close, versus Bang Bang's current residence, which is claustrophobic and, let's face it, kind of scuzzy looking.
Very sparse.
That's a good word. But what you and Pat have developed with the visual grammar, and then using your framing to take the use of space and color even further, is just fantastic. You've got some great long hallway shots that kind of give us that metaphor of the past. The past is in the past, but is it still, can you reach out and touch it? So I'm curious about your work with Pat and designing and developing the visual grammar.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's incredible. And it's funny, I've done several movies now, and each one has a different DP, and not for any reason other than they're just busy at the time the projects get going. And several of them have been their first feature, and Pat was one of them that it was his first feature film that, you know, and so, but he had such a powerful body of work in music videos and commercials that, you know, to get them on these sort of low-budget movies, you need somebody hungry that's willing to go to war with you. And it really is trench warfare shooting these low-budget movies with the schedule we have. And so he had a very, I love when DPs bring in a perspective and ideas, because I'm a very hands-on director with cinematography too. I don't just go, hey, you know, do whatever you want. I'm working with actors. Like, no, I kind of spread it across both with the actors, and I really care about what the camera is doing and creating that language. And Pat was really good at that. And we talked a lot about the lenses, and so the whole movie is only on 12 millimeter through 32 millimeter lenses.
Wow.
So we were on no lens longer than a 32. So we shot with very wide lenses the whole movie, which created a very, it puts you right up there with them.
Yeah.
Like, you're in there like a third person, perspective with every scene, and I thought that, we thought that was really cool. And he's one of the best handheld camera operators I've ever worked with, or DPs I've ever worked with. He operates, and he's just so good at handheld work, and just brings a lot of creative ideas. And with that, you got to mesh not just the DP, but you got to mesh costume and production design with the palettes and the colors you're going for. You can't just only worry about your DP work. We all had to be in sync, So it was communicating with Ben and our costume designer, Christina, just about, those sort of things. Like you said, like when things will be warmer and so all that was sort of, there's not a lot of budget for this movie and those other departments, so what they were able to do was just really impressive. And not to mention, one of our colorist who Pat had worked with and brought her on was Marina Stark, and she's an incredible colorist. She really put the time in to get the gritty look, the film look. Like, we had dealt a lot. She had got she had sent stills of the film to Kodak, and they gave us film prints of these stills, and so she was able to sort of emulate that very, very accurately. And I hadn't worked with a colorist that had put that much detail and time into one film. I mean, I was in Berlin for 3 weeks coloring with her.
Wow.
So that was just a really unique experience for me. And I really did appreciate her sort of passion, like, to every detail. And all that makes for, a better movie. So it's many people put in this sort of work to make that cinematography great.
Yeah, no, it looks, that visual tonal bandwidth is just absolutely stunning. And it really mirrors your emotional tonal bandwidth. And this falls to you because you edited the film. So, begs the question, Vincent, were you editing in your head as you went? Had you done sufficient shot listing or storyboarding so you knew where you were going? You didn't have any wasted shots? What was this director-editor process like for you?
I mean, now, to me, editing is just part of directing. I intend to edit every film I do, so to me, it's just part of the directing process, because it really is. Like, if you watch a documentary, the editor is sort of the most powerful person of creating a documentary. And so, I don't know, I kind of look at that. Same with writing. Like, Will and I did a lot of work on the script once I came on, and it's just, it's all a sort of a living, breathing thing until you finish. So editing, I think of a lot of the music I'm going to use and temp score. I think of those things, and I have that all prepared in pre-production. Like, I already have sort of have those things planned. So when I get in the edit, I sort of start from the beginning. I don't edit while we're shooting. I just kind of take a couple weeks after shooting to kind of disengage a little bit, and then dive in. And I'm fast. I do all the sound design, and I think that's just all part of directing. Even the sound design, transitions, all those things really, really matter. And so I like doing that. I don't really, especially until you have a first cut. Once I have a first cut, that's when I'll have these like 5 or 10 screenings with different people, editors, filmmakers, actors, non-actors, non-industry people. And I like to kind of get people's thoughts and really see how the movie's going. And I really embrace that collaborative effort there from that point. It's not like I'm a protective filmmaker that is like, I don't want any editors to tell me what to do. Like, I'm very open to that once I've got a cut. And obviously it goes through a whole process, a couple months of, fine-tuning it, trying different things. And I do even do a thing, a friend of mine told me that was an interesting way to like experiment, was I do a suicide cut, I call it, where I cut out at some point, once I feel like the edit's in a good place, I I make a version where I cut out anything that could possibly go. Like, just, I butcher the movie in a way that's like, you know, to the bone.
Mm-hmm.
You're stripping it. And you may put back 80% of it, but you may find like 2 or 3 things that you're like, wow, I do not need that scene. It did something really important by cutting it out. You know, you just really learn a lot. It's a little terrifying, but it's worth trying it because nobody will ever know you did it. And so it's just important to try things like that, you know?
Well, you brought up the 2 things that are really key. Is number 1, the sound design here and the music, be it your temp that you were working to, or ultimately the score and the needle drops that we've got within the final product. I have to compliment you on the sound mix, the sound edit, and I was so happy that appropriate sounds match the action and movement that we're seeing on camera. Nice Foley jobs in there to buttress your recording sound, you know, your production sound. So, and then you layer in your music. What were you looking for musically to buttress this story? Because
I mean, that's a great, you know, it's a great point about how, you know, music and score definitely are as powerful as what you do with cinematography to me. And kudos to our production sound. Tanner was really, Tanner Segbers was just really on it, really cared. Like, I really appreciated his work because, you know, sometimes on these low budgets, you know, people kind of, you know, they just do it for the check. It's low, cheap, and so you get that. But Tanner, he just kind of went above and beyond, and I do really appreciate that. And then my post-production re-recording mixer, I mean, they did a lot of fantastic work with, and that's, his name's Frenchie, Jason Frenchie Guy. He's mixed 3 of my films now, and he's really great. And so, yeah, I mean, I may design like and put in all this, you know, music and all that, and you know, have I do my own sound design. They take it and make it great. You know? But the score, and specifically, I guess I'll talk about the songs first, the needle drops. You know, there's several things happening. There's the Polish folk music. There's the Polish rap music, because the character having the Polish heritage, and in boxing, your heritage is almost as big as your name. Like, it's so important. You know, I mean, it was sort of all the classic rivalries were, whether it was Puerto Rico versus Mexico, Puerto Rico versus American. It was something to be prideful about. And so in boxing, you see a lot of that. And I think Bang Bang's character really carried that flag on his shoulders, the Polish stuff. And so I thought the Polish aspect to the film, whether, you know, the opening of the movie had the Polish rap and Polish folk music, that was really cool to dive into, to find. And people were really generous in licensing it to us. And then the score, James Wakefield was our main composer. Tim Blake Nelson's son, Henry, and Will, they did a couple cues for us in the song that Sharon sings in the movie. But, you know, I worked a lot with them and James specifically about creating the score for this. And it has that sort of classic, you know, horns, you know, and elements that I really, I thought really kind of created the memory, you know, like sort of taps into that memory almost, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so much of this score actually falls on the instrumentation within the arrangement in order to achieve those emotional beats musically. Job so well done all around, Vincent. I personally am chomping at the bit for Keep Quiet. I really want to see that one.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited about it. Lou is really incredible. And yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with it. I'm sure we'll sell it, and we just premiered at Locarno, and so now actually we're going to Oldenburg in September, and likely more festivals from there.
I am just so impressed with what you've done with Bang Bang. And I have one more question for you, because with every film you learn something. Now, because of the very personal nature of this particular story, and your connective tissue to it, what did you take away as a filmmaker in bringing Bang Bang to life that you can take forward into your future films?
I mean, that's a deep, good question. You know, I feel like there hasn't really been a lot of movies that really focus on the themes that we're saying specifically at the end of this. And, you know, I mean, my hope is a lot of people can see that and see that these people, man, like, they give so much up for the sport, for people's entertainment. And I think I just in the script, that gut punch of the ending sort of hit me in a way where, you know, I want to appreciate these fighters. Mm-hmm. You know, people say they're ducking, they're scared to fight certain people. You know, that's the furthest thing from the truth from anybody who put on gloves or gets in a ring. Like, that's right. I don't think most people understand how much courage that takes and how hard it is, and scary. Like, you know, there's a reason people like Mike Tyson, before he used to fight, would cry before every fight. Like, it's like this. There's so much going on. You can die there. You can kill somebody. You can really get hurt. I definitely have an appreciation for fighters that I hope others can as well, you know.
Well, if they don't have an appreciation for boxers after seeing this film, they are cold-hearted, and they never will. So, because this truly is such a beautiful character study. You've got the beauty and the brutality. Brutality, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, and you know, actually, one of the things that I actually really loved about the script, too, is the amount of humor that is in it.
Yeah.
Like, I think Bang Bang has some hilarious, he cracks me up a lot of. So I was really also, with any movie that is heavy or has, you know, themes like this, it's important to have humor and that kind of levity. So I was glad that it had that as well.
And Tim does such a great job of delivering deadpan humor.
100%.
He thinks it's funny. Nobody else thinks it's funny, which makes it funny. But his delivery, his comedic timing, and that's what it is. His comedic timing is just spot on. But you're right. You've got to have some humor in there. And you have just enough and never going into overkill.
Appreciate that.
Vincent, this has been so lovely getting to speak with you about Bang Bang. I hope we get to talk about Keep Quiet when that becomes available. I want to see that. I want to talk to you about it.
Absolutely. And I'm sure, you know, I think things will be happening relatively quick with that one, in terms of finding our domestic sale. Like, we are actively, you know, showing distributors right now after the premiere. So I think it should move quick, you know.
Well, I can't wait, and hopefully we're going to chat sooner rather than later.
Awesome.
Thanks, Vincent. Bye-bye.
All right.
And that was Vincent Grashaw discussing Bang Bang, which you can see right now exclusively in theaters. And once again, that's all the time we have today. But join me again next week when I'll take a look at some more films and chat with some more talented filmmakers. At least I hope they're talented. So, until then, I'm Debbie Elias. This is Behind the Lens.